Growing up, I moved around a ton. I never really felt in place. I never really had a stable friend group or a stable community to lean on. And that instability took a massive toll on me. It affected how I saw myself. It affected how secure I felt. And it affected my own mental well-being. So when I finally moved here in 2021, knowing I'd stay, I thought things would be different. I thought maybe I'd find a stable friend group. I'd find a stable community. I'd find that I actually belonged. And I was right. I found an amazing group of people. I found an amazing community. And I found that I actually belonged for once in my life. But I also found something else, something rather unexpected. And that was a culture surrounded upon toxic academic pressure. And this wasn't just get good grades constantly. It was a full force, intense style of pressure. The pressure to take 5 extracurriculars or else you're falling behind. The expectation that taking 4 APs is somehow standard. The irregularity of pulling all-nighters, staying up to 2 a.m. doing homework, and treating sleep like some sort of optional luxury instead of a basic human necessity. And worst of all, treating a B not as a grade, but as some sort of mark of shame. Now at first, maybe I thought this was just a couple of my friends or a couple of people at school. But the longer I stayed here, the sooner I began to realize that that was the culture here. Stress is worn like a badge of honor. Burnout is treated like some sort of rite of passage. And your worth becomes determined by how much of the stress you can survive. Now, I can't speak for everybody, but every year, we see our peers go to these crazy colleges and achieve these insane things. And we're like, damn, I want that. I want to go there. I want to be like that guy. So we buy into the only script we've ever been given. And we fill every single hour with achievement, hustle, grind, and push until we've stacked enough APs and awards and trophies and extracurriculars, all just look successful. This pressure culture doesn't just demand academic excellence, though. It also demands emotional silence. It assumes we're all unbreakable. It assumes we can all bear the same exact weight. Many people are very hesitant when it comes to mental health. If my friend comes to me and says, I'm struggling, I'm burnt out, I have so much stuff to do, I have sports after school, I have a ton of AP homework to do, I have stuff to do at home, I have to feed my siblings, I have to make dinner, I might say, hey, maybe consider counseling if you're really stressed out. Or maybe consider a burnout plan if you have too much on your plate. Now, these are all great pieces of advice. But it's incredibly contradictory because I'm also struggling. I'm also burnt out. And so many people at this school are. We treat exhaustion like some sort of accomplishment. It's so ironic to give other people mental health advice and burnout advice when you yourself are barely able to hold yourself together. You can't pour from an empty cup. You can't help a friend who's drowning when you yourself are barely able to barely able to tread water. The California Healthy Kids Survey, or a survey that everybody at this school took earlier last year, found that 45% of all high school students in California, 45% of them found that they were moderately or severely struggling with their mental health. Isn't that insane? And that's only statewide too. In places like the Bay Area, where academic pressure and competition is even more intense, those numbers could trend way higher. That could be more than half of this room. That's the crisis we're in. This crisis is caused by so many things. It could be peer pressure, academic pressure, parental pressure, the human need to prove yourself to someone. But why does any of this matter? What can we actually do about this? We've been dealing with this for more than a decade. This is a crisis that gets worse and worse each and every year. So here's what I want to argue. Mental health is too often seen as an incredibly serious and an incredibly deep topic that strongly depends on the mood of the room. And it can be at times. But it's not all or nothing. It's a spectrum. Mental health doesn't have to be taking a long break from your life. It doesn't have to be sitting with a counselor for an hour talking about your feelings. It could simply be going for a 20-minute walk outside, breathing the fresh air, listening to the birds, sitting on a bench, touching real grass. Or it can be something else. Maybe you don't want to go outside. Maybe you can just listen to music. You can work out. You can exercise. You can draw. You can do your hobbies. As long as you're giving your body and your mind a moment to rest. And that's what matters. A study from the University of Michigan found that just spending 20 to 30 minutes outside can significantly reduce your cortisol levels, the hormone closely related to stress. That's less than half an hour. That's less than many of our homework assignments. That's less than our endless TikTok or Instagram doom scrolls. These results aren't like vague or symbolic either. They're real, measurable benefits. Lower cortisol means a better mood, clearer thinking, significant factors in boosting your mental health. So we don't need a dramatic break from our lives. We don't need to take a week-long break from school. Maybe we just need to take some time for ourselves. But I've heard so many times from so many people that I don't have the time. I have too much on my plate. There are 24 hours in a day. If you dedicate 6 to 8 of those hours towards sleep and 8 of those hours towards school, you should still have around 8 hours to whatever else you want to do. By the end of the day, assuming you've done all your studying, assuming you've done all your sports, all your extracurriculars, you should still at least have an hour to yourself. There's a tale about two lumberjacks. They both start the same time, and they both end at the same time. But the first lumberjack, he spends the entire, dawn to dusk, constantly working, no breaks. But the second lumberjack, he works the same exact shift, but right in the middle of it, he disappears for an hour. And by the end of the day, the second lumberjack had cut so much more wood. And the first lumberjack sees this, he's like, wow, that's insane. How did you do that? I want to do that. What did you go do in that hour? The second lumberjack says, in that entire hour, he spent the whole time sharpening his axe. Do you get the analogy here? When you take breaks, efficient ones, you get a better result. You better your mind. You sharpen your mind. You better your mental. I encourage you to be like that second lumberjack. Because here's a bigger truth. You can't change the culture here. You can't lower the bar. You can't change the expectation to take 4 APs. You can't change the expectation to dedicate yourself towards a sport or a nonprofit or a passion project, all for that college acceptance later. You can't change that. That's part of the Bay Area. We're all competing to get to these T20s or these crazy accomplishments anyways. So maybe instead, we approach the situation differently. We rethink how we approach mental health. We make an effort to take some time for ourselves. We can redefine what success is, not with trophies or awards or college logos, but with well-being, sustainability, balance, and self-respect. We need to shift the narrative. We need to ask different questions. Instead of, where are you applying for college? Ask, how are you feeling? Instead of, how many APs are you taking? Ask, are you okay? Mental health isn't some sort of weakness, isn't some sort of delay, it isn't some sort of detour. It can be the single most important aspect of your life in determining your future. Taking care of it now can determine whether you'll need more preventative care later on in your life. We can't change the bar here, like I said. We can't lower the culture. We can't change the culture. But we can change how we approach it. If you're alive, you matter. If you're breathing, you matter. And if you're burning out, you need to stop and slow down. Take a breath. That is what success is. Thank you.